Which one did you want? Okay. We planned that backstage, and then the moment got on top of me.
We knew that we had both of us had a 50-50%
exactly right.
chance of getting it right. So it's funny.
Oh, so we're seeing them all.
Welcome. Excuse me. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this morning. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jake, for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to see a lot of the cast in that front row and our producers.
I want to be really respectful of knowing that certainly some, if not many of you, have not seen the movie, so we're going to really try to talk spoiler-free. We both agreed we do not like spoilers. We like the work to unfold as the artist intended without too much, but then we'll get into all the Easter eggs after. So if you haven't had the experience, if you hadn't had the chance, I saw it on Saturday night. I'm still not over it. It's been more than a year, but I'm still not over it. I love seeing movies in a theater with people, and I was telling Jake that it's just there's no better way to prepare for something like this than to watch the person's movie or TV show with an audience, to really feel how they roll with it, how the rhythms are. And so let me start by asking you the question that probably everybody is asking you now that it's out. How does it feel for you to be in that theater, the beautiful Paramount Theater too? It is such a great venue. How did it feel to be in this great, beautiful theater, a temple of cinema, watching movie as God intended?
Well, that's a big question, especially at the
whatever
end.
God, and I'm very seriously, whatever God you...
to watch Self Reliance.
Well, listen, the movie starts with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, so we could talk about the Transcendentalist movement if you like.
No, it felt really good. You know, it's a movie that's really personal to me. It's a tone that I really love. It's something I've really wanted to make. I think it's a really fun, wild ride. And seeing it with the audience, we got a big reaction, and we got bigger laughs than I expected. And I realized I've been sitting in an editing bay for so long that it feels like a weird home movie with all these people in it. And so seeing it in front of people and watching people react and the kind of physical reaction it seemed to have at times was a really exciting thing.
I know, of course, Jake, you've been bouncing between films and television for a long time. You've gotten a lot of experience in both. How long has this movie been in you? How long have you wanted to put this on screen?
Well, I mean, even more than just this movie, it's this tone. So, you know, I obviously love television. I think that's my first love. But in terms of movies, I like if you're going to make a 90-minute movie or an indie, I like mixing everything at once. I like movies to feel like a ride. I like them to be fun. I like them to be different things.
It's definitely a ride, and it's structured in that way.
And that's how it's supposed to be. I'm trying to get you to not look at your phone for the 90 minutes when you're at home streaming this. What I've kind of realized over the years is people will go like, hey, I love New Girl, and I'll go, thanks. They go, it's the best. I can do my laundry and have it on in the background. Thank you so much. You're just like a voice in our house in the background, always. I'm like, well, it's wonderful to see you guys. So the intention of this movie is just to grab you and throw things at you and keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. So you go like, whoa, that was a manic ride. And you go, yeah, and it's over. Just watch it, get into it. Like, take the ride with the movie, and then you get shot out and you go like, whoa, I've got a lot of different thoughts. And for me, that's the idea. That's what's fun to me.
And it works very much. I watch a lot of movies, I watch a lot of television, and I have seen, especially the last 10 years, but really the last 5 years, movies. I think one of the reasons they're so long is that many movies want to be television, want to be these great limited series with this novelistic approach and deep layers of each character. And your movie is a movie with a story, with a beginning, a middle, an end, not everything wrapped up in a bow, but it's definitely, as you say, a journey. And also, bless you, it's not 3 hours. there is a limit to the...
Well, I'm with you on that. But the original idea started as a TV show. So when I first came up with this
You could see that the way it plays out in chapters.
And that had way more fat on the bone. And I had like a 90-page thing that I pitched to Netflix. And by like page 60 where I was like, and then Tommy, you could just see their eyes being like, oh my God, shut up. And so when I was doing this as a movie, I thought like, I don't want any of that fat. And if there's stuff you're missing or you want more of, That's too bad. Like, and you can come to your own conclusions. I also like movies to be choose your own adventure. I don't think we need to give you every answer. It's watch the movie. If you have a theory on it, well, you might be right. And if the person you're with has another theory on it, well, they're right too. It's their movie.
Right. What is your, back of a matchbook cover pitch for the movie? I realized we just launched into talking about it without giving you a bit of detail about what it's about.
It's about a guy who is going through a rut in his life. He gets an opportunity to go on a dark web reality show where they're hunting him for his life. He has 30 days to survive, but he finds a loophole. And the loophole is they can't kill him if he's with people. So as long as he's not alone, he can survive, and he is a lonely individual. And what he is missing is people. So he thinks, what a great opportunity to win $1 million and be with my family. He signs on for the game, and his family doesn't believe he's playing. They think he's making it up. So his story is trying to convince people that this is real while people are actually coming after him. And the game of the movie is it real or is it not? And then as he's doing these 30 days, he learns a lot of lessons, meets a lovely lady played by Anna Kendrick, and has a whole little story within those 30 days.
It's really well done and superbly cast.
Yeah,
like every person that comes in just
perfect.
kills it, even one or two. And Biff Whiff, who knew?
Not me. Biff Whiff plays a character in it who my character ends up hiring.
That's the actor's name.
Yes. Yeah. He did say to me at one point, at one time I'm going to tell you my real name when you've earned it, and I haven't gotten it yet.
Do you call him Mr. Whiff?
I do. And then when we met his lovely wife, it was Joe and I. We were like, Mrs. Whiff, your seat's here. And then we're like, what is happening? But everybody in the cast is kind of perfect. Everybody, what was really fun about directing is being able to hire people. Because a lot of times as an actor, you show up and you'll be like, wow, this person's so great. And that other person's okay. But you're still doing the scene. And what was nice about this was every single person in this movie was kind of hand-selected because they know this tone and they nailed it. I think that the tone and the performance everybody gives is so fun because nobody pushes too far. Like, I view it as a really funny movie, but nobody's pushing for laughs. And when the movie gets more dramatic, nobody's trying to win awards with the acting on top of it. It just like sits right in there in a pocket that's enjoyable for me.
There are no teeth marks on scenery. It's very true.
Yeah.
It's very clear that it's kind of this, you have kind of an emerging company, both from your projects, but also projects that you've been involved with. I just put it together that you and Anna Kendrick, the title escapes me right now, but you and Anna Kendrick have worked together.
Yeah,
Thank you.
totally.
Yeah, a really sweet movie.
Yeah, I think so too. She's excellent in this movie.
She's gonna go far.
Yeah. I've discovered this kid out of Maine. She's funny, she's good, she's talented, I think she can sing. Put a couple cups in front of this kid, let's see what happens.
Triple threat. But you do there is that group of actors and comedians that have a similar tone that is not bada bing rim shot, but very, and in this movie, like the journey of your character, it builds to some really funny moments, and you take this extraordinary setup for this most everyday routine guy, and give him this preposterous setup, and then he has to explain it to the people in his world.
Yeah, totally.
And you get a lot of good out of that.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the fun for me. I've done a lot of indies that are kind of low premise indies, and it's more based off like beautifully shot and great directors and chemistry between the actors and, a really like sweet story, and I like those. But I wanted to see if I could make a movie that felt like that but had like a huge story engine and did a bunch of different genres at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the game.
And that, when did you have a sense that engine was really clicking? Was it on the page, or was it when you saw it on screen, when you saw the actors bringing it to life?
Yeah, it's an embarrassing thing to answer because I wrote it and directed it, and so for me it was always there. The first time I really found it.
The screenwriter sucked, but the director, he really put it all together.
He really saved that hack. No, for me, it was when I first thought of the idea a long time ago, the premise is fun to me. So I've had a company for a while. I've pitched a lot of things. So many things haven't gone. And midway through pitches, I've been in them and been like, I don't even like this idea. Like, here, I'm trying to sell it, and I don't think it's right. And so this one for me, I was like, well, this is a premise. If I were the buyer, I would be interested. And honestly, for this movie, I decided I really wanted to make it during the pandemic because I really believed, and I was told by a film executive, that movies as I knew it were going away, and the whole game was going to change, and things were going to be more short form, and we were going to be doing things in our like smaller projects and build it, and something like this was never going to happen again. And he said, like, you just have to accept that. And he was doing a positive spin, and he's like, but it's good. We will adjust. The business will continue. And I honestly hung up the phone, and I was emotional, and I thought, like, I'm not going to adjust. I'm not doing that. I don't want to make short form videos in my backyard. I want to make a movie that goes in front of and does a night like this, and people are allowed to have big reactions to it. Thank you.
Yay, movies.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important, especially for indies. I'm like, what are we doing? With all these different platforms, people are going to watch this wherever they can, but we want to all get together and do it and like not have it feel like an hour and a half of TikTok videos. And so I thought with this movie, if this comes back, I want to make this movie. I want to make it exactly like this. I want it with these people. And, you know, it was accomplished. It's a movie I love, so I feel really excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And when you see it snipped up in a few months, snipped up on TikTok, you can feel...
Self-reliance, self-reliance. Don't kill me, don't kill me. Great.
Now let me ask you a very writerly question.
Please.
So, again, without blowing it, there's some fun, you know, not exactly cameos, but short appearances by people. I will not blow it. But we learn a lot about Tommy Walcott is the name of the character. We learn a lot about the person over the course of the movie. Was there, obviously some of that was consciously planned, but were there parallels? As I walked out of the theater, I was thinking, oh, that's why that was that, because he talked about that. Again, trying to be spoiler free.
Yeah.
Was all of that built in, or were there things that surprised you that kind of snuck in there, and then you realized, oh, wow, that makes me look like a genius writer for layering that in?
That's actually Robin Marshall from MRC, an executive, gave a note about like 2 months out of shooting, and she was the one that said all of this should connect. And so she's like, spend the time now, make sure all these beats connect. And I hung up, and I'm like, too late in the game. But it became a really fun thing, and so all of that stuff was intentional. We pushed for it, we tried to find it, and it became part of the movie that I really loved. I mean, really the big takeaway is making a movie like this, the best part of it is it's such a collaboration with so many talented people. And really the main reason I wanted to direct is I've acted enough that sometimes the director is not the most talented person on the set, but they are the boss. And there's at times where the DP's the real talent, or an operator's really good, and they'll have an idea, and then the director will walk in not paying attention and go like, what were you guys saying? Yeah, put the camera here. And everybody has to listen. And I hate that. And as an actor, you can't say anything because that's not your job either. So on this, I really wanted to hire great people and let them run their departments. And in terms of the cast, I liked talking tone. But once we're there, I'm not going to tell somebody how to be funny. You know, I'm not like, you know, Daryl Johnson, who's hilarious, who plays Malcolm in it. We weren't sitting there. I wasn't saying like, this is how I would say your joke. It's like, this is the bit. We both know the tone. You're on your own, man. And so that for me was like such a fun part of it. And then connecting it, it was like, we had great executives. You know, it was like so many people were helping so much. And, you know, Lonely Island, Allie Bell was such a killer for us. And Akiva and Yorms and Andy, like Akiva really helped. He sat on the edit with us. So that was my big takeaway of this movie, of doing a feature like this. I'm like, wow, there's so many talented people who really do contribute on a project.
Just to clarify, Lonely Island, a comedy troupe you might have heard of, with Andy Samberg, and others, they are producers. So I was about to say Sony Pictures Classics because of the way they spoofed it. Sorry, Lonely Island and MRC, another independent. So a true independent. This remark got a rise from the crowd on Saturday night. Tell them how many days you shot it in.
We shot this movie in 19 days. And it was really fast. And when you see the movie, it's a beautifully shot movie. Adam Silver absolutely kills it.
Your cinematographer.
Yeah, cinematographer. And I think the reason why, when you see the movie and there was a gasp, is because a lot of 19-day indies feel like 19-day indies.
This doesn't look like anything less than 29.
I think that's a fair number. My request was 25. I was like, I know it seems arbitrary, just like, give us 25. But he did such a nice job, and for me, aesthetically, the movie just looks so good that I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's fun. It
really does, and it has also a look to it. Again, I'm looking forward to a repeat watching because it has those touches that on a second viewing, it has a palette, Anna Kendrick's wardrobe has a palette, and I want to go back and look for the kind of clues in that kind of stuff, but it absolutely has a look, and the high concept you got around, I'm guessing you didn't have an Avengers level budget, and we know about the 19 days.
Mm-hmm.
And
Believe me.
You also shot in, I am native of LA, I actually grew up in the Pasadena area, and you shot on some corners of that Highland Park area. I was like, I know that corner.
Yeah.
I know that motel. But you did and that was part of the naturalistic part of it. It really felt
well, we were talking about it at the bar we were hanging out at the other night. Look at us, huh?
It's Austin. What are you going to do?
We're just hanging out at a place called the Speakeasy, not to brag.
We both got the special nod.
But I wanted this to be an LA movie. I love Los Angeles, and that was another thing in the pandemic. Originally, when I wrote it, it was going to be Chicago. I'm from Chicago. I try to make all my characters from Chicago for no reason besides I like Chicago. There's like no deep connection. It was like New Girl. It started off and it was from Michigan, and then Winston Lamorne and I were both from Chicago, and we were like, we have a very serious pitch. Can these guys be from Chicago? And she's like, why? And we're like, honestly, no reason. And so this was a Chicago movie. And then in the pandemic, it felt like so many people were shitting on Los Angeles and leaving and talking about these big cities are gone forever.
Just like film, right?
And I was like, oh, shut up. I was like, there is a reason that we've all come to Los Angeles to make things forever. It is the best place to film things. It is a beautiful city. You have so much talent there. So in order to do that movie there, I was like, I wanted to show how beautiful it was. I wanted it to be an LA movie. And I wanted to be able to hire the best crew and the best people and say, like, we don't have a lot of money, but you're sleeping in your bed tonight. You're not going to be in a hotel after work. And so the LA of this movie was really important to me.
We won't say what it is, but did you have any alternate endings in mind? Was the ending you shot?
No, we had a different one. And we put it in front of audiences, and it just brought up so many questions so that we kept kind of changing it and messing with it. But I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, the ending was a lot of discussions in front of different people.
Was that something that you recut, or did you actually go back and
We actually reshot some stuff.
So 19 and a half days, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
But if you saw the crew on that fake day, I give it 19.1. We had 8 people in someone's yard. It was true independent cinema that day.
That's good. Since we've been talking about LA, how was LA as a city to deal with? Did they make it easy, medium, or hard for you to get all your permits and do all that?
I mean, Joe Hardesty ran most of that. One of our producers did a great job. But I will answer for him, even though I don't know. And it was really easy. I didn't give it any thought. We just showed up and it was cool. So yeah, Joe did. It was easy for him too, I guess. Thanks, Joe.
Well, hopefully that makes your next shoot easy, because the LA Film Commission somewhere is going to grab this clip and say, look, come to do business.
No, but it's a great city to shoot in, and we loved it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a distribution plan at this point?
I don't know.
Or is your plan to sell it at South by?
You're putting me in a spot I don't know if I'm allowed to answer.
Woohoo! Sounds like something's brewing. Why don't we move on?
We have a plan, but we are going to not say anything for a little bit. But we have good news about it.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say a movie this fun, this charming, and again, God bless, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
This movie's going to get picked up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's but in a few days on my Instagram, I'll be like, "Whoa, really exciting news, everybody!" And then somebody will go like, "Hey, idiot, you chose the wrong photo," and I'll be like, "Just delete it." This is a nightmare.
Let me ask you this: as a person, as an artist, are you competitive? Do you look at ratings? Do you look at box office for your projects?
No, I'm competitive with myself. I got into this game for selfish reasons. There was something that I wanted to do when I was growing up, and I first started seeing movies, and I said, like, I want to do that. And so box office, it means it's different stuff now. Like, if we are going to go to a theater with this, is it limited? Is it wide? If we go to a streamer, is the win how much we sold it for? Is the win the audience response, the critics? So you get to a point where I don't know what the win is anymore, but I know when something feels right. I know when something has been accomplished in a way that I hope it was. And so there's a golden ring that I can't quite get at, but I'm competitive with myself trying to keep getting after that thing.
Are you competitive in that creative sense? Do you consume a lot of other media, other movies? Are you looking for inspiration in those forms, in contemporary?
No. I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know what is going on with other movies. I just finished Sopranos. It's awesome. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's about a mafia in New Jersey. But Tony's got a heart of gold. I had heard about it forever. I'd never watched it. I had a really embarrassing thing where I've talked about that show as if not only I've watched it, but I like it. And if somebody goes like, you seen Sopranos? I've said and believed. I go, best show ever. And then they go, what do you like? I've said, James Gandolfini. Are you kidding me? And then my buddy Eric Edelstein was like, dude, how about Paulie Walnuts? And I was like, who the hell is Paulie Walnuts? And he's like, have you seen the show? And I go, like, I don't think I've seen Sopranos. So I turned on the pilot. 3 weeks later, phenomenal. So, no, I don't keep up with what's going on. I haven't seen, a Marvel movie. I didn't see the Star Wars. I'm not connected to that world. If an indie comes around and it's so great and everybody's talking about it, I will see it 6 months after everybody else and think like, they were right. That one was special. But no, I feel like for me, it's an internal game, and there's something I'm trying to do. So I'll watch something I've done, or I'll see a reaction, and I'll get either competitive with that, or I'll see something that, to me, whenever I'll watch Bottle Rocket, I'll still go like, that's the best. So there's like old classics that I watched when I was coming up that I go back to and go like, how did they do Boogie Nights? That's so good. And they weren't even that old. I'm like older than them. And they're so good.
That's when it's humbling, when you realize, oh my God, this person was
like,
10 years
old.
older.
28 years old? Damn.
Do you feel like in your career, was writing and directing, was that always a goal?
I wanted to be a playwright when I first started. I read...
A fine Chicago tradition.
Yeah, well, there was like the Mammoths out of Chicago, and then obviously the Sam Shepherds of the world. I thought they were really cool. But then in Chicago, we had the Second City. So we had a guy named Del Close who used to run improv, and it was all about like doing it the right way.
Legendary name.
Legendary. And there was like a way to do improv, and then there was Belushi and Murray, and then when I was coming up, Farley, or not coming up, when I was being raised, but like Tina Fey was on the stages, and you could go see a free improv, and it would be Tina Fey before she was at SNL. So I just thought like, that's just local talent.
Right.
That's just how like improvisers are. They're all like that good. So for me, it was, I want to do something like she's doing and what they're doing mixed with what these playwrights are doing.
That improv, people that come through that improv background, the writing is literally ingrained in what you do. You write as you do it. Would you say did you in fact pursue improv in any of the troupes or?
Yeah, I did UCB for a while. But I had a two-person show called The Midwesterners, where whenever there's a group, I like to be a little bit over here. So we did our own thing, and we traveled around with it and did all like the fringe festivals. And we used to rent out theaters in the Lower East Side in New York and hand out flyers in Times Square and charge like $3 a ticket because you could rent a whole theater for $100.
Stand out in front and give them away.
You rent the theater for $125, and so if you get like enough people at like $3 a ticket, you break even, man. And that was a blast, but I would never do it again.
Would you advise your niece or nephew coming up?
No, I mean, the world is so different now. You know, I'll get asked a lot now where somebody would be like, what would you say to like somebody starting? Or like, my daughter wants to be a filmmaker. What's the best way? And obviously now with your phones, I'm like, I don't know. Just make stuff. Like when I was coming up, we didn't have this technology. So you had to go up on stage, and the way you advertise, you have to like hand out a flyer to somebody. So the new world is different in a way that I can't quite wrap my head around. But I know there's a lot of talent coming up that way, and I would say my advice to you is whatever you guys are doing, you're obviously winning. So keep doing that, and God bless you.
Would you say that time on stage, did that help hone your voice? All those $3 tickets?
Yes, comedically, that is the thing I'm still kind of going back to. That was the first time when you get in front of an audience and you're really nervous and you've got a sketch and you're playing and it's either working or not working. That's when I've kind of found how I could maybe make it in this business.
That if you can see that in your teenage or young 20s, you're ahead of the game for many folks.
Now you're talking.
I just want to encourage people. I am completely hogging all of the questions, but you can send in questions via the South by Southwest app, and you can also endorse questions. We're watching eagerly here to see which questions get the thumbs up. So when I stop hogging the questions, we'll look and we'll pick a couple questions. Just wanted to encourage you because I will stop talking at some point. But let's start. Again, probably the most pedestrian question you get in virtually every interview. What would you paid your dues, you sold those $3 tickets. What was the thing that led you to your big breakthrough as an actor?
Yeah, so I did a movie called Paper Heart with Charlene Yee, which was a fake documentary between she and Michael Cera, where she was trying to find what love was, and it was directed by a guy named Nick Jazanovic, who I was friends with. And he had to be in it, but he didn't want to act, so I played him. So I played Nick Jazanovic in like a documentary because Mike Cera and Charlene were playing characters, but I was him. And we traveled the country and we interviewed people, but everywhere we went, I was Nick Jazanovic, not Nick Miller. But then what ended up happening is the movie went to Sundance, it came out. I then started getting like the exciting thing actors get where like my agent would call and be like, somebody at like Blank Studios wants to meet with you. And I'd be like, hell yeah, the game is starting. And I would show up and not as a joke. They'd be like, I loved the movie. And I'd be like, thanks so much. We had a lot of fun. And they're like, what was the inspiration to direct it? And I was like, I have no idea. And I was like, oh no, you think I'm Nick Jazanovic? And then from that, Liz Merriweather saw that documentary. And Liz Merriweather, who created New Girl, we became buds, and she put me in No Strings Attached.
Right.
Kutcher and all them. And then from that movie opened up on a Friday or whatever the box office was. She texted that her pilot got picked up, which at the time was called Chicks and Dicks. And she said, there's a part for you in Chicks and Dicks. And I go, what network? And she goes, Fox. And I'm like, Chicks and Dicks? I want to be on something that like sticks around. She's like, we'll see. She's like, just come audition, and then auditioned for that, got in that, and then it was that thing that started it.
Today, even that conversation, the whole project would have been canceled. You all would have been sent to remedial. Like,
yeah, totally.
It is. But for a long time, not so much anymore, because times have changed and attitudes have changed. But for the longest time, showrunners, if they wanted to get their pilot, keep their pilot buzzy through pilot season, would give it a filthy name.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then which everybody knew it would eventually be changed. It wouldn't go on air, but there would be the filthy name. It appeals to the prurient in all of us.
It was flashy. It got
Chicks
attention.
and Dicks.
Yeah.
There were a couple of other, and particularly as you can imagine, at Fox, that was a tactic that worked. But I mean, Liz Merriweather is anher just.
She's an unbelievable. There's been a few
terrific talent who did New Girl and then followed that up, did a 90-degree turn and delivered The Dropout. Right. Like just incredible writer, incredible talent.
There's a few scripts I've gotten. I had the same thing with Spider-Verse. When I first got those pages, I would go like, oh, this is really good. Like you're really doing something. And Liz has that talent. You know, Phil Lord, Chris Miller have that talent. There's been every once in a while a project will come and you'll just go like, oh, you guys are playing at a very high level. It's really exciting to see.
And then, so New Girl obviously comes out and is, it was not exactly a slow build. It was very well received from the get-go. It was a little bit of a slow build ratings-wise, but after season 2, you knew you
Well,
were
honestly,
pretty strong. What was,
kind of. So honestly, with all this stuff, the world is so weird. And whenever you think you got a New Girl came out of the gate and it was gangbusters. And the pilot they released it. What is his name? I think Scott Early or Ely.
Joe Early.
Joe Early. Yeah. He's so talented, and he had a whole plan.
He runs Hulu now.
Oh, he does. Oh, amazing. Well,
Great guy.
Great, super talent, and he wanted to put us online and release it early.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, what a goober's move, man. Wait until the premiere night. But I'm like, who am I?
That's why he's running Hulu.
That's why he's running Hulu. And so many people watched that pilot that it was like Fox's biggest pilot
That's
since
right.
Bernie Mac. And because of that, I was like, oh, we have a shot. But then the show went first 2 seasons, people really loved it. But then people fell off on us. So in the pandemic and through streaming, there's been a whole new audience of young people. And they have really taken to the show. And going back to what I think the movie is, when I say in my movie, it's a choose your own adventure, because the products belong to the people who watch it. And this new generation, they love it more than people loved it while we were making it. It was not a show that it was loved the way it's loved now. It was a show that was on. And, we weren't getting canceled, but we would be at like the events and they would be like, I think we got another year, yeah? And I'm like, yeah, great. And then in the pandemic, a new group found it, loved it for a different reason, and, which is a really wild experience. And it's really neat to know, like, oh, things don't have official timelines. You have no idea. And in the world of streaming, in the world of things come out, and people find them and take them whenever they want. And that's been the best part about New Girl for me, is that it's like, wow, people are finding it and loving it and taking things from it who are 19. They're 18 years old. We started that show in, I think, 2011 or 13, somewhere back then.
Not
trippy.
But it's got to be, gratifying to you to see that generational, and it happens to shows, ensemble comedies in general, when well done, but they're have a tendency to live on in syndication, which is kind of an anachronistic thing, but streaming is a version of syndication when you can see unlimited reruns of your favorite. You could watch Friends, for 3 days if you wanted to, or New Girl. Ensemble shows always traditionally were, just worked well in syndication because there were different people, but it has to be. If you think about the shows that really, Cheers, Friends, Taxi, the show, it's strong ensembles, a lot of characters, and timeless issues. What are we going to do? What's, people trying to find their ways. And I can honestly say, I remember talking to people as New Girl, it was never top, in the top 5, but it was always a steady player. And it was one of those that after a while you can just say, you know what, that's going to play for a long time.
Yeah, it's neat.
And I can imagine. Now, when I was walking into I was waiting for the Self Reliance premiere on Saturday, I heard snatches of conversation. I heard people would walk by. Oh, that's the New Girl guy. Oh, this is a movie. I want to see that new. How does it? I think I know the answer. I think we can guess the answer, but curious, is that at all a hindrance to you to feel like when people in general public primarily probably associate you with New Girl until Self Reliance leads the box office for the next 6 months?
No, I don't think so at all. I think I actually really like it. I kind of, anything that you do that people watch, I spent so long in my career. I didn't start working until my late 20s. So when I talk about those shows where we were handing out flyers, well, a lot of times nobody showed up. And so we would do events and he would be like, the Jake Johnson panel, thank you to the 9 wonderful people who are here. 4 of you are truly drunks in the pack. And as the performer, which is what your job, you still have to perform. My buddy Oliver and I rented out a theater in Times Square once, and we were really excited. It was like a big show. Literally no one came. We had a 45-minute sketch show with like wardrobes and costume changes. Nobody showed. The sound person goes, you've rented this space. Do you want to do the show or not? the weight of shame. We did the show.
Good for you.
Because it's what you do. And we sold it. And I'm like shucking and jiving on stage, like trying to get laughs for no one. And then afterwards, we did our note session. Where he's like, it was pretty good. You jumped on my line, brother. And I'm good with it, but like, let's wait the beat. There's a pregnant pause, man. There's a laugh there. And so when New Girl happened, it was Ron Livingston, actually. We were doing Drinking Buddies. We were in a cabin, and he said, like, he's honestly the nicest human being in show business. And he was like, how you feeling about the experience? And I was like, I don't know, I'm on television, it's cool. I think we're getting a season 2. And he goes, no, this base will stay with you. There'll be people because of this. He's like, I have Office Space, and people who like Office Space will watch the stuff I do. They'll try it. They might not like this, or they'll like something more than the other, but they'll give you a chance. And he's like, that's a gift, man. And I thought, like, wow, that really is a gift. And so that's my big takeaway. If somebody likes that show, I really appreciate you. When people walk by and say, like, hey, Nick, what's going on? I don't think, my name is Jake Johnson, and my SAG name is Jake M. Johnson. I think, like, great, hi. Thanks for watching the show. Watch the next one. I'm going to create some really weird stuff in the next 5 years until they kick me out of this game.
I'm so glad you did the show. I was married for many years to a musician, and there more than once that, like, literally there were only girlfriends in the audience, and you do the show.
Yeah,
an artist
the
does show.
You have to
do the show. I'm going to ask one because I think it's cool, and then I'll ask the one with the most votes.
Okay.
So
how do the votes work?
You have to see in the corner there. You see the little thumbs up. It looks more like a mitten.
Yeah. Okay.
They've been cutting back under Elon Musk.
The most mittened question is getting first.
They're cutting back on their finger look. Okay. What band/artist would you compare to the tone of would you compare the tone of Self-Reliance to? Is it a little Wilco? Is it a little Cool in the Gang?
That is an impossible question.
Sorry.
Honestly, it would be, if anything, it would be whatever musician did the album that they were like, this is my passion album. We went up to like upstate New York and recorded this one, and the musician loved that album. And that whatever the equivalent of that is, where you go like, oh wow, like that's what that group really loved. And the people, like the band when they were on like the Pink House.
The music from Big Pink. Yeah.
And it was just like, we're here doing this thing. That would be the tone of this one. It felt like everybody who came on added a certain flavor to it. It became its own thing. I can't compare this movie to any other movie. I can't compare the tone to it. It doesn't feel like other things to me. The original idea of it was, what if Jacob's Ladder had some laughs to it? Because when I'll watch a movie like that, I'm having so much fun. And when I watch a story that has thriller elements and I don't know what's happening and it's driving, I really enjoy that. But then when I go watch a comedy, I really like that. And I'm like, and sometimes with comedies, I'm like, I would be okay to have a little bit more Jacob's Ladder. And in Jacob's Ladder, I'll think like, I kind of want to laugh. So, whatever that would be that answer.
Have you ever seen Death Trap with Christopher Reeve?
No.
That is it's that same tone.
Okay,
kind
fun.
of black comedy. You go look that up
great.
later on. Yeah, Death Trap with Christopher Reeve. It's great.
I love
role
it.
From him. Okay. You can always also, if that question ever comes up, you can always look cool in any audience. Just say, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
You're done.
That's the way in.
That's cool. Okay. I'm going to rephrase this just a little bit.
Okay.
Is there a role that you wish you could do, especially a role that you think that no director or writer would cast you in? Is there some out-of-type role that you would love to do? Put on the cape, put on the wings?
Honestly, like Dog Day Afternoon, which is such a great movie, I would like to play Al Pacino's partner, John. I really love being number two. I really like when somebody's, doing their big monologue or their big scene, the person next to them. I think that is such a great, I just love it. I think it's such a great role as an actor. I think it's so rich. I think there's so much to do in the in-between. When you're the one who's driving the entire story, there's so much weight you have to carry, and there's so much stuff that you need to think about just to get this performance right, that it's hard to really just be in the moment and see what the other person's doing. I prefer to react rather than lead out. So if I'm in a scene and the director says, improvise, open it up, I'm not the first to talk. I'm like, somebody else lead out. Like going back to New Girl, which is like a guy like a Max Greenfield, he leads out. Before they call action, he's doing a bit. And so that is a really fun dynamic when I'm with somebody like that who comedically wants to go. Those are always the relationships I like the most. So any movie where there's a big presence pushing forward, I like for me, Dog Day Afternoon is a very funny movie. So I think it's a great term.
As prison uprising movies go.
But that's what I mean. I was like, but I would be thinking while I was doing this, like, God, we're making a great comedy too. Because it makes me laugh. His performance makes me laugh, the whole world of it. So whatever that would be a role. But there's not like a role I've seen or someone's career I've seen where I thought like, man, if I could only be like blank. I haven't seen that path in front of me.
Mm-hmm. To that point about you like to be the guy next to the person leading, how was that for you then doing Self Reliance, where you are front and center, you're practically in every scene?
Well, I think it was different because I don't think I was going to be able to make this movie unless I was in it and I directed it and produced it. So I think it was an interesting experience, but it wouldn't have been it's not something I'm going to do a lot of. But for this experience, in order to make this movie, I felt like this is how I have to do this one, and I'm excited to do it for this one. But when this one ended, I wasn't like, let's run it back. Self Reliance 2. Tommy's still being chased.
Speaking of chased, you did a lot of physical physical running. Was that challenging to do that on screen and do it in a
It's a fair question. Don't project. Yes, it was really hard. I am not
doing all these running scenes on a 19-day
yes.
shoot. Like you didn't have a lot of room to mess up.
It was exhausting. But it was also in terms of that, like when you're writing it, you're directing it, and you really care about it, that's what needs to happen in the scene. So when you talk about what role would I like to be next to the person doing all that running. In this, there wasn't that person.
I have a question for you. Your character's name in Self Reliance
It's just a bold move.
Sorry. Your character's name in Self Reliance, yes, in the face of all these better questions.
Yeah.
Your character's name in Self Reliance is Tommy Walcott.
Yes.
Your production company's name is Walcott
Yes.
Productions. Explain the Walcott.
So Max Winkler and I created when we had a company together called Walcott at 20th Century where we were trying to put together shows, and he and I had an idea for a TV show that was similar to Self Reliance, and the main character we called, his name was Paul Walcott. And so when he and I would talk tone and we would talk the kind of stuff we wanted to make together, we would just shorthand say like, it's like a Walcott type thing. And so when this one went, originally he was going to be on set to be able to direct me, but then he got another gig. So in discussing it, during the pandemic, where I'm like, I think I'm going to write it, we would just shorthand say like, so it's like a Walcott kind of guy going through this. So, when they said I had a card and I put it up, I wanted Walcott, and then the fun of it of repeating that kind of felt like a personal thing between he and I.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Good little fun little tidbit there. Let's see here. Let's ask a variation of this. Was there something about the process, soup to nuts, from writing to shooting to editing, after completing your directorial debut?
Yeah.
What about the process surprised you? What did you learn? What was something that you didn't know going in that you know now?
Yeah, I think the thing I learned was how much you need to lean on when you're making a movie and you're trying to make something, how many people in that group are needed to make the whole thing work, and how much you really need to rely on talent. And if there are aspiring filmmakers here and people trying to make it, it feels like it's a really individual journey. And when you're coming up with the idea or you have your dream, it feels like it's all you and you're going to have to do this. And what I really realized is like the talent that surrounds a director is immense. And people can really carry weight in a way that I didn't fully realize. And so what was really nice was not having the panic of I have to do this on my own, but this is a group of people trying to lift this rock over the hill. And the only way we're going to do it is if we're all working together.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's something that you're not unfamiliar with from TV.
Yeah. But TV is different. So like what New Girl experience prepared you for this venture. So the difference with TV and something like New Girl or Minx is as an actor is I've been on set, so I'm seeing all these people do the jobs. So the amount of hours of working and actually making the food or like making the product, we're just in it, we're doing it. And I thought like, well, I know how to do that. But in terms of directing, which was different, is that you are part of that, but then you have to step outside and not be part of it. And so I'm used to doing these projects kind of inside out, where the other people are on the other side of Video Village. Video Village is where they're watching all the the footage you're doing, but you and the crew and the operators and the sound and the wardrobe, you're all in the thing making it. So what was a real trip for me on this one was being like, oh, I have to be in the factory making it and then step out and do the other one. And I really saw how important kind of both sides were on this.
Did you have to do with a lot of social distancing? Was your Video Village actually on set?
We had to do, everything was really COVID-y. It was like, it just was. It was like I would have like a mask on and like goggles, and then I'd have to talk to an actor and be like, hey, hold on. So the scene is, and then they'd be like, all right, you guys can take it off to shoot the scene now. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? We're like this, now we're covered up, but it was deep in it.
Yeah, it must have, all kidding aside, like it must be hard. You're getting yourself
a total
up
drag.
into,
Yeah, total drag.
All right, let's totally shift gears here. Let's talk about Minx.
Yes.
Which is, it's a show I came to late. I have not seen all of season 1. You went from, I cannot even keep it straight anymore. It was HBO Max. Now
it's now Stars.
Now you're moving to Stars. You certainly seem to be rocking those wide lapels. It's Minx is a set in the early 70s.
Yeah, so Minx is a show for those of you who haven't seen it. It takes place in the early 1970s, and it's about the first nude magazine featuring men. And my character, Doug Renetti, I'm a pornographer who is not a perv. He's not a perv. But he's a businessman. And so for him, he realizes all these magazines show these naked women, but we don't have a magazine that shows naked men, and there's a whole demographic of people. This was where the idea that Ellen came up with was kind of like, it was right around when Playgirl started. You said like, I'm sure these women want to see naked men too. So it's about the group of people who put together a magazine that has feminist thought in the writing and naked men, and how this kind of like group starts selling those magazines.
So the women could say they read it for the articles.
So it's the same bit, but just kind of reverse it. And it's really fun. I think it's coming. I think they're re-releasing season 1 soon.
Mm-hmm. And it's also kind of got like it's not a sitcom with sitcom beats,
right.
but there's a lot of dark humor to it.
It's a really great show. I really hope people continue to find it and we get to continue to make it. I really love it. I think the cast on that is phenomenal. The writing's really great. The world is really fun. Shooting something in the early 70s is a real blast.
How is that for you? Is that another layer of preparation? Do you have to do a certain, you obviously
partly
can't
I have to walk around with hair like this. I don't choose to be 44 and have this level of hair. By the end of shooting, I was taking my kids to school, and I'm like, I think I have a fucking ponytail. This was never the plan. But I don't like wearing wigs. I think wigs are tells, and I don't like extensions, and I don't like playing characters that people can see the acting, and I don't want people to go, if they're watching and they get into it, going, it's a really great performance, and one of the reasons I can step outside of thinking it's real is that's not his hair. And so stuff like that actually matters a lot to me. But in terms of the preparation, it's really reliant on the material. So I'm not, I love the early 70s. I love the aesthetic. I love the feeling of it. So I wanted to do that, but the writing they do is so great. We just kind of jumping into it.
Mm-hmm. I noticed Rachel Lee Goldenberg is a real force, and you've worked with her in the past, I think, right?
She just did the pilot for it.
Oh.
And she
as
really,
as
the director, and she is such a monster talent. So I just we've become buds now, and she's great.
For you, in the big picture going forward, do you anticipate juggling a mix of writing, directing, acting? Is that kind of what you want to do, a mix of things, or are you gonna tack one way?
I want to. My dream is always television. I love television. I love being on series. I like being with the same people over and over. I like building things. I like when people find a show, watch it enough, and feel like all those characters are real and they're in their life. I think a movie is a really nice, like, unique experience where you see it and you experience it and it's done. But I like the kind of novel effect of TV. I like that people can't. I did the thing earlier about in the background, and that was kind of a joke. Like, I like that people can keep seeing things. I like that people can grow up with a show, or something that means a lot to me is when somebody will reach out and say, like, I had a really hard experience, right? Something in my life was really negative. That show really helped me. I watched it a lot, and I think, like, man, that's so cool. Like, a movie like this, I can help you for like 90 minutes. But then you're getting weird if you're watching the same movie too many times. And TV, it's like, and I had it with Sopranos. I was like, man, that was just such a joy. So where I would love to get is if it's directing, to maybe direct some of the episodes. But I would love to find a great showrunner. I'd love to find a great team and put something together. I don't really necessarily need to do all the jobs again.
I was just,
Yeah.
do you have showrunner in you?
No, I don't want to be a showrunner of a TV show. I think that's a really unique skill set. I think it's really hard, and I think it's really great. And all the showrunners, thank you for doing the hard work you're doing, and please hire me on your shows.
I have always been told that there is, in fact, a showrunner gene, and there can be great writers who are just not showrunners and great directors that are just not cut out to be
You
showrunners.
have
Sounds
to
like
be a
you've had that
wild individual to be a television showrunner. You work all the time, endlessly, forever. And then you go, like, as an actor, you show up and you're like, how'd we do? And it's like, everyone's great. The crew leaves, post leaves. Anytime you text a showrunner during the entire run of show, even during the summer, you'd be like, you on vacation? They're like, I'm in Mexico. You're like, great, how's it going? They're like, I'm editing remotely. And you're like, it never stops. And then you're overseeing the next season. I love working really hard, and I like being in this industry, and then I like stepping outside and not thinking about the industry and not thinking about work so that I can try to bring something else to it. A showrunner's brain is different, where they just keep, pushing and grinding.
So true, and that's why when actors or anybody on the set, but particularly actors, are acting up and don't come on time, don't know their work. I mean, it is really
drives, everybody nuts.
It's truly
A nightmare.
The rudest thing.
I agree. If any of you guys are actors, be on time.
Do your job.
Do your job.
It's
It's
do your
nutty.
job kind of thing.
I get it. You have a lot of Twitter followers. Show up. Nobody cares about your TikTok here.
Well, nowadays you're on one show, but nowadays it seems like there's no legal limit. You can have 3 or 4 shows at any given time.
I'm just finding out that's true.
Yeah.
I mean it. I came up, my education in TV was New Girl. Mm-hmm. You don't do another show. You work from August until March, and then you do one movie in the summer.
Right.
And the idea is, I used to think you do a big studio movie, and then I thought, like, I did Let's Be Cops, and I'm like, I didn't enjoy this experience. Like, I liked making the movie, I loved Damon, but I'm like, well, I don't want to do this too. And then I also did Drinking Buddies, and I was like, I'll just make more of those. And that nowadays, because TV is, the whole thing's in 3 months, I'm hearing contractually you're going to be allowed to do multiple shows at once. So I'm like, well, if that happens, we're in a whole new world.
Are you pursuing stuff? Are you looking for new projects?
I haven't started, no. I'm still kind of locked in. My head is still in mix.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, I know we have just a few minutes left. Obviously, there are some very big picture decisions on the horizon for Hollywood, for Hollywood's unions, the WGA and the DGA. SAG, you hit all 3. You're in the trifecta. I know it's hard to predict, but is there anything in your experience, actually, moving through all these meetings, is there anything really pressing that you think needs to be addressed? The Hollywood's 3 major creative unions are coming up on contract negotiations with the major studios, and they're going to be tense. It's a tough time for all of what we've been talking about with streaming changing everything. Do you have any thoughts on kind of what needs to be addressed?
No, I think what's really hard is I think it's going to be really tricky because nobody wants a work stoppage, especially people watching. We do make this for the fans. They don't care about what we get, and they don't care what the studios pay. But I also understand you've got to get fair deals. But I'm like, both sides, I'm like, just stop fighting. Make this work. People are interested in watching stuff. We're interested in making it. So rather than getting into the details, I just really hope there's not a work stoppage and we're walking around with picket signs and doing all that nonsense. I'm like, let's just keep working. And for the, studios, like, come on, just Meet in the middle here, folks.
From your lips.
Yeah. To nobody's.
No.
The head of every studio just went like, did you hear Jake Johnson at that panel? He said, meet in the middle. I saved it, everybody! You're welcome.
When the history is written, it started here.
Yes, now we're talking. This was a political panel. I'm a political guy.
All right, we're going to ask one more from the audience, and then I have one last one for you.
Okay.
You pick.
So, saw Self Reliance, loved it. Thanks, Caitlin Ryan. Would you play the game for 1 million, 5 million, any amount? No. Caitlin, the game, if you lose, you get murdered. I don't want to get murdered. I don't want to be chased by people trying to murder me. But no way. But I like the idea of something entering your life that's really exciting, that takes you outside of your life. So the kind of metaphor of that was that something that is not in your routine, that just swoops you up and it's all you think about for 30 days. That I would do, but I'd like it to be like a weird retreat with like massages and saunas. And at the end of it, you get $1 million. I would do like that version of the game.
Like a little, discussion about Thoreau and
Yeah. And then they'll be like, we are going to
great.
fix your eating habits. There's too many fries. And I'm like, thank you. And I win $1 million? That'd be cool. I just came up with my next indie, everybody.
Figure 600,000 after taxes.
Exactly.
Good.
This one's fine.
Okay, here's my last question for you, and forgive me in advance because I'm sure you get asked by fans all the time.
Okay.
Where do you think, so it's 2023,
Yeah.
hard to believe, we're almost mid-March 2023. Where are Nick and Jess today in their lives? Thank you.
Yeah. I think they would definitely make it work. I don't think those two would break up. I think this series ended, that last season was so chaotic because we only had 8. So I think what ended up happening in that flashback episode that like they have a kid and they're jumping around on that bed in the big, you guys know it way more than me. So I don't think Nick or Jess would ever fall out of the commitment to do this thing together. So my thought on the show and what I like about the show is that and my buddy Eric Edelstein told me this early on. He said Liz Merriweather has created a very optimistic show. It's people who are sweet to each other. So my thought of if it was real and they're alive, they're together, they're all still hanging out. The vibe is exactly the same. They're all just a little fatter besides Schmidt. Hair is starting to go besides Schmidt. He's probably in a toupee at some point. If we did a reunion, Schmidt needs to be in a toupee. But yeah, I think they would all be doing the same stuff, just older.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad, and I can tell that that's your honest answer.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, thank you
This
so
was a
much
pleasure.
for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for a fun movie.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.